All right. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to new folks. Today, we are having our little group gathering on what is your essence story. We want to hear what your first essence was, which was the first one that really connected with you and really touched you, and you went, "Oh, there's something to this thing." And we'd also like to know, maybe you have a story about one that really you took one time and it just absolutely blew your mind. That is our topic for today, and we are eager to get into hearing what your stories are. Of course, I have my story, but I would love to hear everyone's. I'm sure, those who might be listening, have listened to the podcast, might have heard my story already, but I'll tell it again. But, if anybody wants to jump in, Mary or Ro, do you have your stories loaded up?
I do.
Right, do it.
So, I at first I thought, my first essence. I don't even remember when it was. My short-term memory is kind of, and setting in. And I don't even and I do remember in the beginning thinking, there's nothing wow about this. Why do I keep taking these things? There's nothing. I don't know why. I don't. But then when I kind of looked over the last 30 years of taking them, my experience has been like lots of wows. And but I think the first one that just jumps out at me is when I was studying at Desert Alchemy. I'd had some good experiences, but it was a week-long retreat. I was in the process of going through there were a lot of issues around grieving that I was experiencing back home. I had a very dear friend that was dying of cancer, and just a lot of reasons that this was a good time for me to be sitting in the desert and playing with cactus. But I remember we had so much playtime. I looked out the window one day, and I was studying and trying to absorb everything, and this beautiful, beautiful orange crazy cactus is just hugging me, and it's just out the window. And I looked at my roommate later on and said, "What is that thing?" Like we'd only talked about Ocotillo how many times? And I realized that it was seeing me there all alone in my situation and not letting me getting overwhelmed by all those emotions. That it was just there really working on me. So that's my I'm going to later on tell my latest wow, but we'll let everybody else have a chance.
Yeah. Well, thank you for jumping in with your I mean, that sounds like a very Ocotillo things to do. Right? To jump in and like, yeah, I have a story.
I got a story.
So thank you. Thank you for getting us started. And yeah, there's not just, those of us who've been doing it for a little while, there's probably not just one story. We probably have a few wows as well. So thank you. And so we have just a few people on cam here today, and we have a few more in the background, and you all are really welcome here too. I completely get cam fatigue and shyness and all that, no problem. And if you have something that you would like to share with us, you can either pop your hand up and then we can bring you in, or you can just put your comments into the chat. I will mention Cheryl has popped her comment in the chat. She says, the only essences I have used is rescue remedies. She says, I've been encouraged by a friend to take this course and beginning a journey with flower essences. I have 3 books about them and are amazed at how they work. Wow. Well, thank you very much. We're excited. I remember that early stage of the journey. It's pretty awesome. Boy, you have so much, there's so much fun ahead of you. I can hardly wait to hear what happens. So thank you for that. Kiva, do you have, you may have just joined us,
Yeah.
but did you have a story that you'd like to share?
Let me see. Well, no, I think the question was what was the first essence? And I have to say way back, oh God, it has to be at least 25 years ago or 30 years ago. It was white chestnut because I've always had a hard time sleeping and I have a monkey brain. And if I woke up, I mean, my mind was all over the place, and that was definitely a saving grace for me. Yes.
You are not alone.
I make up a sleep flower essence now, and that's always a part of it. Trust me. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I think white chestnut is probably it's definitely in the top two, three, whatever essences we ever use. I
yeah,
know it's one that as a practitioner I carry it as a single essence to
yeah,
offer to clients,
yeah.
so that because that's one of those things that it really, boy, doesn't it help just to sort of like get you off of the hamster wheel and be able to settle into sleep.
Well, I was plagued with panic attacks years and years ago, and that was also included in, that combo, that formula, because once it started, the mind would be off and running, that I was going to definitely die at that moment. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have found it very useful.
Good. Good. Yeah, that's a
Change.
good
Yes.
addition to an anxiety formula or a panic formula to
Yeah.
help you come out of
Why
that
is it?
cycle.
I'm going to rename here. This is the Zoom with work, so
Okay. All right.
let me get my name in there. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And if you have more along as we go along, I'd like to hear it.
Okay.
Since you brought in white chestnut, I'll bring in the one that really clicked for me is red chestnut. And I think maybe this might be a kind of a common thing, but when I was getting all into the Bach flowers and learning them, I think red chestnut was the very last one that I even knew the existence of. And yet it's like dead on for my picture and my story. So I think we often have these blind spots for ourselves that we don't see the essences that might be really good fits for us. For me, red chestnut was absolutely a game changer because I could, and I remember doing this even as a little girl, just getting fixated and worried on everybody around me, my family or my pets or whatever. And I remember when I got my first little birds, I got some zebra finches when I was like 12 or 13. And I remember like in the middle of the night getting up and pulling back the little thing and doing a flashlight to make sure they were still breathing. Like, that's the level of anxiety that I had about everything because I was just convinced everything was just going to die like that. So for me, red chestnut, obviously, this was many years later, but I discovered how much red chestnut could absolutely switch that for me. And I just could let go of that because I could just spin the worst fantasies about things happening. And I couldn't stop, even though I knew that they were ridiculous, and I could not stop. And red chestnut helped to turn that off for me. Help to just it's like it just disconnects that spinning. I don't know. I think white chestnut maybe has a similar dynamic, but mine is more of a red chestnut. Has
Mm.
that been your experience, Joyce? Do you just kind of like feel like it just like unplugs?
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yeah. That's that comes in right under the white chestnut, but it was one. I went to the white first, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, red chestnut and white chestnut are botanically related. The red
Yeah,
chestnut is the baby of the white chestnut, crossed with another different type of
yeah,
in the same genus. So it's a hybrid. So it
yeah.
carries, I think, some of that white chestnut
Similar, yeah,
dynamic and
yeah,
has a little bit of a different, it's just a different flavor. So
yeah.
they're closely related as essences and literally as plants. So you'll definitely find that there's
Yeah.
overlap. And I do sometimes use, two of them together. So
Mm.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Ro, do you have a story loaded up
I
that
got
you'd like to share?
stories. Yeah. But the very first time that I got was attracted found flower essences, got attracted to flower essences was in the 90s in my local health food store. And I would go there. I worked in a corporate environment, and I would just like go to this health food store in the town where the workplace was. like all the time just to like get I don't know, like a healing vibe, like a different vibe than I was stuck in every day in my corporate job. And so I remember the Bach flower like display and they had the questionnaires. And so I at like one time at on my lunch, I just sat on the floor and read the questionnaire to try to decide what Bach flowers. And I actually have like, I don't know if anyone has seen those like this, but this is one of the older questionnaires that they used to have. And there's like three questions for every Bach flower. And I remember going, well, but I'm like all over the place here. I just couldn't figure it out. And I think I finally decided on water violet because it sounded the most like me and maybe like a handful of others. And I took them. But to be honest, I didn't know what to expect. I was expecting something bigger, like a bigger reaction and or either more allopathic or more magical because they were like these magic little bottles that I thought, oh, there's something special here, right? And I could feel there was something special there, but I didn't know how to use them and I didn't know what to expect and I didn't really stick with them and they kind of like sat in my cabinet in the back of my shelf and gathered dust forever, but I never threw them out. I mean, I just thought they were like this special treasure that but I just didn't know what to do with them. And so it wasn't until years later that I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and I was on anti-anxiety medication. I had lost my husband, and was like a young widow. And like, I think I reached out to the flower essences at that point and the rescue remedy. And so I was taking that. I had been taking these, and people probably heard this story on the podcast. I kind of just got acclimated to taking anxiety medications all the time. And I really had to get off of those. And it was really difficult to get off of those because there's a lot of rebound anxiety and I was studying herbalism and I found some herbs that were really helpful for me. But what I had found, what there was a part of that process of like putting something in my mouth, like taking a pill, like popping a pill, like in the afternoons. And I needed to replace that with something. And I knew that, smokers replaced stuff with, their cigarettes with gum. And I knew that that was like a technique. So I thought, what can I have? And a cute little tin that I can just take when that feeling strikes. And I found the rescue remedy pastilles. And so, in conjunction with the other changes I was making, that really satisfied that like dependent need. And what was surprising, so this is the surprising part of it to me, was that it it started changing things. It started making me more aware of what my triggers were, like, in the office and as a highly sensitive person, the things that were coming in at me that I didn't have any really tools to deal with. And that kind of regular intake of those rescue pastilles, it made me more aware of like what was triggering me to do it at those times and just more present in my being. And that was something that was really more new to me to have more presence. And so that was the surprising part that I didn't expect. I was just looking for that oral fixation like replacement when I started taking them. And what I got was really the beginning of my, real journey with flower essences in that way.
Thank you. That's a really cool story. And I love that, you're kind of working with the pattern of, the habit and being able to shift the habit. I think that there is something really that I've worked with some clients in the past with some of the spray version formulas that the Fluorescent Society makes, which is, the Flourish formulas come with a spray cap, and there's something about being able to interrupt with a stimulus, like if you have anxiety, like what I remember one client had anxiety of driving. And so she would have her fearless formula in her hand as she's driving, or in her purse or in pocket or something like that, nearby as she was driving. And, just literally like spraying it in her mouth, when she started to feel herself spiral up, it just clicked for her. I mean, not only are the essences working, right? But there's this quality of interrupting that cycle. You have something you can do, it's like some physical action that you can take um, to create that little shift and switch. Thanks, Ro. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Pam.
Yeah, I started using essences probably back in the 90s. I think I was introduced to them. But the one that literally changed my life was clematis. Um, I kind of used to live in a dream world. I mean, every chance I got, I would go somewhere else. I would daydream while I was driving. If I was home, it's like, "Oh, I'm going to go take a nap." But I didn't sleep. I just went elsewhere to, I guess, escape my reality. But but yeah, I started taking clematis and it shifted everything. I didn't even feel the need. I don't even take it anymore usually, but it just made such an impact on me. It's one of those things, when you have something like that that changes everything, that stuff works. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if I've had an essence have that dramatic effect on me since. I may have, but that's the one that's, your first is always the best, right? The most memorable. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good one. That one, and it's so funny with essences is sometimes they'll be so subtle and sometimes they can be really dramatic. And so we never really know exactly what to expect. But, if we've got a good, assessment and did the picking right, we're gonna usually see something. But I'm really intrigued, like were you able to identify yourself as that type from a sheet? Do you remember how you got paired up?
No, I don't. I honestly don't. It was like a long time ago, and I was in a bad marriage and this and that. I did have a friend. I met somebody that lived close by that did some essence work. So maybe she helped me identify it. I honestly don't have conscious memory of how it all came about. I was in a position in my life where I don't think I was working much. So I had a young sons, but I did a lot of time reading and doing research and researching homeopathy and vibrational remedies. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm glad it did. Yeah.
Yeah, just curious because that's usually,
Yeah.
the symptom picture, the pattern picture isn't usually some one that somebody will go, "Oh, I need this essence for this issue," because usually it's like, I'm good. I like being in the dream world. That's a great place for me to be. Oftentimes we're not recognizing like maybe this is, interrupting our ability to
Right.
live well.
Right. And
Yeah.
maybe she recognized it for me, but I noticed the shift. I can just say, wow, I used to do this and now I don't. What a difference. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Wow.
that's
Yeah,
sold.
thank you. That's a great story and it's such a dramatic change. So wow,
Yeah.
thank you. And you, like you said, you don't necessarily need to take it forever and ever and ever. You're taking it for the period of time you need to. Sometimes we need to touch back in with it over time. The pattern emerges again and we need to, but it's not necessarily a lifetime scenario. So thank you. Yes, Carly.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned clematis in the dream world because I'm often in a dream world and I'm someone that doesn't want to get out of that dream world. So yeah, so many different takes on that. But um, yeah, I related a lot to Ro. Um, I first came across Rescue Remedy. I was actually in Hawaii and I was building a house with my boyfriend and we were living in a little neighborhood way back. And I was just on a morning walk and I came across a garage sale. I saw there was a garage sale happening down the road. So we checked out the garage sale. And at that point, I was in a state of really looking for something to heal my nervous system. There was a lot of conflict coming up in my life, lots of arguments and harshness, and my nervous system just felt shot. So I remember being on a mission to find something to help my nervous system. And the lady at the garage sale, I forget how we even started talking about it, but she mentioned Rescue Remedy. And she said it helped her with the grief of the death of her baby. And when I heard that, I figured it must be like pretty profound medicine if it can help someone get through that. And since then, I've just heard countless cases of people working with Rescue Remedy for grief and how incredible it is for that aspect. Um, and then I'd be wandering around. I remember finding a book about the Bach flower in town at a little bookshop. And I just kept being very called to it. And I found a stack of free books on the street one time, just all flower remedies, vibrational medicine. So it always felt like it was on my path. But yeah, the first one I worked with was water violet as well. And after I had gotten the first book, I remember flipping through and I was amazed at how accurate it was able to describe my personality in a way that I had never read or been able to understand before. And yeah, I found Water Violet was really beautiful in helping me to understand my personality in a much deeper way. And as you all know, like Water Violet can be pretty tricky to understand. It's a little bit of a mysterious type, I would say. Um, yeah, so really, it was amazing with helping me to understand how I am, why I am, and yeah, to this day, I still use it as a base in my personal mixes, and yeah, in love with that one for sure.
And since you mentioned the water violet, type and the description, what is it that clicked with you with water violet?
I guess just my sense of detachment. Um, Not really being able to understand why I am detached, but it was able to help me bridge the connection with others in a way that I could still maintain my distance and my detachment, because I find like whatever one you work with, you eventually find an acceptance and often an appreciation for the trickier emotions and the ways that we are. So the ability to show up as I am in a more accepted state of myself and then be able to connect with others in that state.
Thank you. That's
Hmm.
lovely. Thanks for sharing that insight, because every time we think about the flowers, or, especially with some of these Bach flowers that have been written about and discussed and everything, and it's almost like if I can talk to somebody or hear somebody's voice who it's really their flower, sometimes there will be a way of you expressing it that's slightly different than a way that I might have heard it expressed in another in from another voice. So thank you for
Hmm.
speaking the story of the water violet. Really appreciate that.
Hmm.
And I gotta
Yes.
say, I'm a little bit jealous of your flower fairies leaving you stacks of books
Yeah.
that you want. I mean, come on, that's
Yeah. Yeah. It's been incredible. I was leaving a women's circle and found the stack of books of the flower essences. And now actually the office that I've found, the consulting room that I'm going to be renting, is in the same building where I found the flower essence books.
oh,
Yeah.
full circle,
So
huh?
yeah, lots of synchronicities.
Oh, well, congratulations on all
Thank
those
you.
things, and thank you
Yeah.
for sharing your story. Appreciate it. So we have space now. If there's anybody who would like to share their story or an additional story, because we could sit here all day and share like, oh yeah, and I had another story that I had, or another time that I connected with a flower. So if you've shared one already, feel free to jump in and share again if you want to open your mic or put your hand up. I'd really like to collect all of these stories because, this is both a live sharing, but it's also something that we share to others later. People who follow the YouTube channel for the fluorescent studies, they really get to connect. Even if they don't get to be here in real time, they can connect with all of us and they can connect with these stories. And the sharing of the stories is something that's such an important piece of our work. So, yeah, Mary, please.
Well, I'm going to tell my most recent wow, and which someone here already knows. But recently I was working with a very gifted practitioner. I like to see how other people work, and I love that. And and it was suggested that there was a particular flower essence that might be useful to me. And was I around my kits? And so I said, sure, I'm always around them. Or I try not to not be around them. So I went into the box that I thought they were going to be in, and everything was in it except that one particular essence. And it was suggested to me that possibly that was a biggie, and that it was hiding from me for some reason, and that maybe we really wanted to work with it later, or work with it in a slightly different way than I thought we were going to. And so it was suggested that I take the blue evergreen hydrangea from Flora of Asia for a period of time of my liking, before I got a formula. And so I did indeed find a hidden bottle of such essence in another location, and it had also been used in the past, but I couldn't remember when. And so when I started to take it, it became very clear when it was that I'd been able to take it, and what it was actually for, and what it was doing for me. And the immediate reaction to, okay, I get this now, was a wow. It was just a wow. I think you forget that you can still be wowed. So so now I really learned that essence, and I have decided to put it on a use with caution list. So
Yeah, my teacher Jane Bell had, the essences that she sort of had, the skull and crossbones, use with care, handle with care kinds of essences. Yeah,
only
yeah.
only with advanced clients.
Yeah, I mean they have their moments. They have these moments, but they're not for everybody and they're not for every time, and they're not cuddly sweet essences for the most part. Yeah, the blue evergreen hydrangea is one of those. And and I don't know if that was confusing to anyone. Mary, do you to clarify the confusion in case somebody's like, what is this? What is she talking about? Or what are we talking about here? The flower essence was from me. The blue evergreen hydrangea was from my line of essences, the Flora of Asia. So yeah, it's a really it's a very intense essence. Yeah. And so
I,
your experience, did it come up to you in like a dream state, or was it just like, oh, clarity?
It was clarity. It was very clarity, because the description that I have is that I read in that moment was a very brief mention of when you're on a threshold experience, and I just really hadn't noticed that was actually what it was. And but I did know that I was, because I work with astrology, knew that there were some really um, dynamic things going on for me astrologically. And so I really, really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know that one for when I see those kinds of transits going on for people that I know are really ready to knuckle in and try them. So,
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that it really is like when serious transits are taking place, that one is like, well, are you going to take the ride or not?
you bet.
Kicking or screaming or not, you know? Yeah, it's a really amazing as an herb. I mean, it's one of the 50 primary herbs in Chinese medicine. Although it's not used a lot anymore. It's an anti-malarial. But it has the lovely side effect of making you barf. So it's pretty intense. It does it's a threshold, right? You know, it's like
It's a threat.
get this out of your system or don't. So yeah, it's a that one was a really interesting essence to make because it really wanted to know if I was serious or not, and it didn't just, you know, hand me permission on a platter. You know, it was sort of like make sure that you're serious about this before you make it.
Well, it was very much the same experience that I had with it was, are you serious about taking the next step? And what is it going to take for you to get serious? And since then, I realized that what I was really needing, that experience of it by itself, was that I do have a couple of clients who are on those thresholds as well. That it was it was like, and I want to know, when I want to be very careful, when I recommend that one. And when I have one who I will just drop it on her front doorstep and say, here you go. Do it now. So,
Some people need our support and some people we need a little a gentle push. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your experience. And isn't that the way that when we've had a personal experience with a plant, then we can share that personal experience with in our work with clients, you know, once we've had that deep embodied connection with an essence, we're able to, you know, both recognize it and then know when to apply it, when to offer it to a client. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Mary. And Katrina writes in the chat, she says, Rescue Remedy was my first one way back, and at the time I didn't understand it all. I'm glad to be on this path now. The ability it has on connecting us to the earth for sure, and its creation and beauty. And she says it's my favorite and always on hand is Five Flower and then also Yarra Environmental Solution. So thank you, Katrina. And also Baby Blue Eyes is a big one for you. Oh yeah, Baby Blue Eyes. Oh my God. Yeah, when I went to the Flower Essence Society years back for their practitioner training, Baby Blue Eyes was the one that I chose to really work with. They had a sweet little patch of it growing out by this stone that they had on the property that's was a grinding stone from the native peoples that had lived there, and it's a big boulder, but it had these hollows in it that were presumably used to grind acorns and such. But there was a really sweet patch of baby blue eyes going right about there, and I just absolutely connected with it. You know, I mean, I love blue; that's my favorite color, but also this flower just really, really clicked, and then spending time attuning with it and then really focusing on the essence. Oh boy, emotions. So many emotions. Because, you know, I had really you know, some iffy paternalistic dysfunctional mm, male figures in my life. You know, growing up in a cult and in a patriarchal society. It was, you know, some very unpleasant male figures. So the baby blue eyes has been a really big piece of my process. And thank you for bringing it up, Katrina, because I hadn't really thought about that in a little while. So I appreciate that. Because yeah, it's a big one. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, Ro.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I can talk about another one that just it wasn't maybe a wow effect. It was more um a stabilizer, and it's yarrow. So that was one that early on in my flower essence journey that I found. And I was such a highly sensitive person, and it was like really hard for me to be like go do the grocery shopping and be around people and all like the noise and the lights and all of that stuff. And so I got to a place where I was taking yarrow and probably a few others every time I like stepped my foot out of the house, right? And I went through kind of a journey with it where it just became more, helped to just stabilize my field, I think, and give me that feeling of protection, that that buffer against the world, that allowed me to be in the world again. And it so after a period of time of just really taking it all the time, it got less and less to where I needed it less and less, and I like kind of hardly ever take it anymore. But it's just like this old friend now. It's this old friend for me that it really was just by my side. And also I sat with the plant and I did make my own essence of it. So I do have that connective feeling with it, that ally, that feeling of it being an ally from that, experiential process as well. But I mean, I just have so much gratitude for that essence and how it helped me overcome those challenges in my life because this was before I knew that being a highly sensitive person was a thing. It was before I knew about neurodivergence. It was before I knew about any of these things. And I just felt like there was something wrong with me for being so sensitive. And I just didn't have any tools to deal with it. So yarrow was such and then pink yarrow as well. And with Alaskan gemstones, adding that black tourmaline in there also is a great booster. So I love those.
Oh yeah, I want to tag in on the pink yarrow story with you. But thanks for bringing in yarrow. It's such a there's something so sweet about yarrow that we talked about a couple essences that could be kind of triggery or intense. I mean, obviously the blue evergreen hydrangea, to be used in certain circumstances. And then the baby blue eyes, at least for me, I feel like sometimes it can be a little more intense than somebody if they're getting started with it. It could bring up a lot of stuff. But the pink yarrow or the yarrow, the regular white yarrow, Achillea milliflorum. Oh my gosh, I can't talk now. Um, everybody laugh at me now. It has such a almost like this universal energy. It's just so gentle and also generous and non-threatening at all. It just kind of helps give you a sweet field. I remember years ago I made it. I was teaching at the Northern California Women's Herbal Symposium, and they asked me to come and teach an essence making workshop. And I got there like the day before, 2 days before, whatever, and I'm like, well, this is going to be interesting. I wonder who's going to want to get involved in this. And I walked around the outskirts, and then I found yarrow, and I'm like, oh, okay, yarrow, that's great. It's not going to upset anybody. Everybody's going to have a really nice experience. It's going to be really sweet. Yay. And it really was. I mean, it was so sweet. All these women we were all sitting around this bowl together and experiencing the yarrow coming into our fields. And it was just such a sweet, warm, delicious experience. I won't forget that. Yeah. Yeah. And was that like your experience with making yarrow roe?
No, because I was just on my property just by myself, but it was this really kind of visceral, like, vision of, this of being like under the umbrella of that yarrow flower, and that how it had this buffer kind of like I bubble wrap, like an energetic bubble wrap, that I felt like it was, I was inside that bubble, that you might, if you've done any energy visualizations, that you might, visualize a bubble of protection around you. And then with the yarrow, it just kind of just felt that way, and I had that vision of it, and then yet it was malleable. It wasn't like just like energy could still come in. It was, it wasn't blocking everything off. So it wasn't blocking me off like completely. It had the way, all the little places where the good energy, the positive energy could come in. So so my experience was just like, you know, more Alice in Wonderland, kind of like feeling like I shrunk down and I was inside that protective bubble of the Yarrow umbrella.
Yeah, and that's so different because like if you're making it in a group, I hadn't really thought this through, but I love what you're saying because when I was making it in a group, everybody got along really well. You know, it wasn't like anybody was needing to go sit off by themselves because it's like we all had our own little space. You know, Yarrow really helps us share space and, have being able to have that experience as a solo maker versus a group making, we all had that dynamic of where we didn't feel crowded, we didn't ever feel, harassed by anybody else's field. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic. And having made other yarrows, there's that same feeling. It's almost like it puts you into this numinous field where you can feel where your field is, but you don't feel isolated from the world. You have your own integrity of your space, but you're not, cut off from the world. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
That
and
was
Pink
interesting.
Yarrow is similar, but it was around the heart center. I felt that same kind of thing, but around the heart center.
And is that not one of the, most amazing essences to work with as a practitioner? I remember
Right.
my first time of playing Pink Yarrow because I, would do the full empath slash merging situation. And so anybody's stuff, I would totally feel it. And when I started taking Pink Yarrow and recognizing that it wasn't actually all my stuff that I had to process, what a relief. I could feel it. I could go, okay, yep, that's your stuff. Doesn't need to be my stuff. And uh, that was a real game changer for me. Has anybody else played Pink Yarrow or any of the Yarrows? I thanks for the Katrina says, "Oh yeah, Yarrow for sure." And then I hope I'm not going to get your name wrong, Sobi. She says, "I love all the Yarrows. I use the trio white, pink, and yarrow, so that could white, pink, and yellow." Yes, Carly.
Yeah, it relates a lot to how I've experienced crabapple lately. I've been using it for a few weeks now. I've used it on and off, but it's more clear about how it's working, especially in relation to being able to filter through the energies and not really absorb. Similar effects, but maybe I feel like yarrow would be more around the heart, perhaps. I haven't worked with yarrow yet, but I definitely will get some. But yeah, being able to be in spaces and not absorb the energy is huge. Like in a lot of beautiful situations, like I wanted to go to a concert and I don't ever go to bars, but it was in like a theater where there's drinking. And I was able to sit there and watch the show, watch this it was a beautiful art show as well. So normally I wouldn't be able to be in that space, but I had some crab apple beforehand and I was able to just sit there in my little content world and be able to just absorb or like the music, enjoy the music and the show and not take on other people's energy. Also taking it right now, I'm back east visiting family and I feel like I've developed a pretty particular, more kind of a picky lifestyle where I've just learned to filter my water and learned to eat my clean foods. And I have my way of living over in the West Coast. And I don't have all the things I normally have here, but I'm able to be here and not worry about it at all. And yeah, normally when I come back and I don't have all of my particular things that I like to live with, I definitely feel the effects, but I'm able to be here and it's more the worry of it. I'm able to, yeah, not worry about it as much. The foods and the water and the things that might be toxic to my being, I can just not worry about it and feel protected.
Wow, thank you. That's really interesting I've never used crabapple in that context. I guess maybe just because I've always had yarrow to lean on. But I really appreciate how it's what you're saying is like the crabapple is really working in the almost in the mental sphere of the anxiety around the things not being the way you might want, and just helping you kind of
Hmm.
relax around it as a, like, well, this is just for now, and then, when I get back home, I'll be able to do my life the way I want to. But yeah, thanks
Hmm.
for that, because that makes it so much more heartful to be able to connect with your family without having all this kind of stuff wrapped around your experience.
Right, yeah, what's being in my body or on my body, not being fearful of it. And that makes sense as you were talking about yarrow. I'm like, I wonder what the difference between yarrow and crabapple would be. But crabapple would definitely be more for the mental sphere of the worry around being unpure in a way, whereas the yarrow might be a whole body feeling energetically in your field.
Yeah, we are certainly talking about two very different botanical families, right? So we've got the crabapple, which is a member of the rose family, the Rosaceae, and it's such a broad family. So it's pretty hard just to nail it down to one particular thing, but I kind of look at that classic Rosaceae five-pointed star as on some level expressing the way that we are in the world in these bodies and with others. And the Rose family has such a strong interconnection with the humans and the animal families of all kinds that it supports, I mean, it's like we've got apples and roses and, on and on and on of different foods that are with this family. So they're open to interconnection with humans in a way and with animals in a way that many other plants aren't. They offer gifts. They grow in our gardens. They're growing next to us. We've cultivated them. They've become domesticated. And so the Rosaceae, I often see it really as being this interconnection on the heart level with the world, with the natural world, with our families, with others, with other humans, with other animals. It's like it helps us navigate this heart space of connection. And that would be like the smallest summary I could offer for the Rosaceae because there's so many different facets. But then let's think we're also looking at the Asteraceae with the yarrow. And the Asteraceae is like these, they're not plants that are, at least if I'm going to sort this through my mind, for the most part they aren't edible plants, but a lot of them are medicinal plants. We have, obviously, the yarrow is used herbally, and Ro, if you want to jump in, please do before I say something goofy. But Echinacea is a member of this family. But as essences, they help us like constellate our spirits. And I wonder if the yarrow is just so helpful that when there's been shocks to our systems, that have caused us to flee, that have caused us to disperse, that the yarrow and the other members of this Asteraceae family like bring our spirits back into our field so that we're fully inhabiting, and we know where our edges are. And I feel like that's where yarrow really comes in to support us, like helping us find our edges again when they've been broken. Because hopefully we weren't born with that fracturing, but it's like that's an essential part of our being. We should have this sense of our field, your field, and we have a connection, but we don't need to be merging with one another. So Carly, I went on and on a little bit, but you did, we did get started with the botanical families thing, which is a little bit obsession for me.
Good, good, good. Yeah, that helps.
Okay. Yeah, Rob.
Well, I just wanted to, Carly, thank you. I am so inspired actually by what you said in that use of crabapple. I had not thought about it that way, more specifically about like when you're traveling or maybe just going out to a restaurant to eat, and there's this fear. And for me, I've got all these food sensitivities. I mean, going and ordering off of a regular restaurant menu, it brings up anxiety for me. I mean, it's just it's how it is right now with my body. And so that idea of the crab apple helping with that mental anxiety about what's, you're intaking, like what's going inside your body. So the yarrow, yeah, is more energetic. I think it's energy, but the crabapple might be dealing more with like these physical worries that are happening with feeling like something can upset your equilibrium in your body or even be toxic or toxic to you and have some sort of reaction, because that cleansing action of crabapple is so important in that essence. And I just never thought about using it that way, like while out and about and not having all your, your supports that you might have at home. Oh, that's brilliant. And I'm definitely going to be trying that out.
Yeah, it's been quite incredible. I guess my first association with crabapple, I found it was very helpful with like body image things where I noticed, not really now, but in my earlier days, yeah, definitely challenges around body image. And you could see that impurity kind of coming up in thought form around that. And I guess over time, as I've been working with it, I've been really able to relate it to, yeah, being able to dissolve those fearful thoughts about what's in and around my body. And yeah, it's all related to that kind of sphere for sure.
Yeah, it's like having that the interaction, the healthy, healing, beneficial interaction of us in the world. Because, we have to interact with the world. We have to bring food into our bodies. And yet, maybe it's not perfect, but the crabapple kind of helps to buffer that, perhaps, I wonder, to help take good things and let the bad things go. Hmm. Yeah,
The
thanks for bringing
example
that in.
in The example in the Bach Flower Therapy book was it was a yoga teacher or yoga guru, and he was teaching like 200 students about how to move their blocked emotional energy. And the example was the guru that was able to absorb all of the blocked energies of his students and be able to filter them through.
Hmm, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I haven't read that
Yeah.
story, but
Mhm.
thanks for going deep into the crabapple for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Mary, you have.
I want to say thank you for the crabapple Euro conversation because for years my husband has a gluten intolerance, and those fears that you were talking about are just of a restaurant, of a gee, how did they dry the dishes? I mean the fears that get very compulsive or I mean can really inhibit a relaxed sense of experience. And for years, he used fringed violet, which is another. Um, uh, I can't go to the botanical family yet, but it. I'm trying, but it is another one of those energetic protectors. And he took an emergency formula with the fringed violet in it for years, and to the point where he would only carry it on himself and carry it in his pocket when we would go anywhere where there would be potential gluten contaminants or whatever were the and to the point where within the last since I would have to say in the last 5 years he has gotten to the point where he can I think he has used the sensitivity of that to the point where he no longer needs to have it. And so to have that availability, the crab apple, when those little, it's like, let's go to another level with this. How about the crab apple level? That would be kind of fun.
It
And
sounds like
not
it could
fun,
be
but
a, yeah. No, this is how we
complimentary.
have fun.
It would be kind of, it would be really fun. Well, it would really be fun going into a restaurant without reading the menu first, but it would be very, it could be broadening. It could be very, it might change a different level. So thank you for that one, Curly.
It's really great to have these interactions because we can hear things in different ways and people's different experiences and stories. Yeah, thank you for bringing that in, Carly. Yeah, Sophie, hopefully I've got your name
Hi.
right.
Yes, you did. Thank you. For me, my experience with flower essence, my first experience was about a while back in like, I would say easily like 7 years ago. It actually came up in my astrological reading, chart reading once that they suggested for me to try like alternative medicine, such as she was specific, flower essence. And I was like, what is that? Like, I was so like intrigued at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never heard about that. And like, I did some research, and then that's when my journey with them started when I had a session with a practitioner, flower essence practitioner. And at the time, I'd had a combination, but the one that struck out the most was Mimulus. Because and the reason why I say struck out the most in general, not that I recall it being like the single one for me, flower essence that I use, because I use the combinations for every session. But I think the beauty of flower essence is the gift that they provide us with, that consciousness and that awareness that we might had not had before or prior to taking them. Like for me, I didn't know that, oh my God, there was so much fear that I had within me, in like different areas that were like blocking me and stopping me from like, you know, being able to express my fullest potential. And obviously it's like layers. The beauty of them is also that they're so gentle, that they're not like shocking, or like, like if you sit in like ceremony or something that you're like, whoa. You have to like come back and try to integrate everything. They're so gentle, and beautiful. But those, I feel like how Mary described it, like those series of wows, those mini wows that recur, are so amazing. And I'm just so grateful for them um, because of their gentleness, but yet they're so potent, and they're so like bring so much clarity. And like I said, that consciousness awareness of things has been the most valuable for me. And so I started with the Bach flower essence, and then obviously, like as I was taking them, I was like, I want to learn more about them. So I took a course in the Bach flowers, and then in the Fez, and then in the Bush. And now I'm currently taking um, the Andean um, flower essence from Peru, which the Orchid Andean flower essence from Peru, which I feel that are amazing. And reading the books, to me, um, it makes it more um, like enjoyable, and like brings so much joy to me to learn like the maker of it and the history, and like the benefits of each essence, kind of like crystal healing and stuff. So yes, thank you for offering these spaces like this, because I feel that's, I don't know, at least here in Florida, like, and I don't know a lot of people that like are into it, and if they are, they're like not really like stick with them. So yeah, I've like, grateful for this community.
Mm. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful share and for sharing your experiences with the essences. God, all of everything what you said, loved that. It's so sweet that you found us, that you're part of this circle with us. We really appreciate it. We're glad that you're part of the community. We're glad that you're, brave enough to share your story. Thank you so much. And yeah, Mimulus is certainly one that was one of my first ones that I connected with too, because it really felt right, because I was scared of everything. And like you're saying, it gives us this ability to create a little bit more spaciousness in our experience. It's like it shortens that distance between the stimulus opportunity to make a choice and respond to our world in just a little bit of a different way. And that may be possibly what we're talking about today. I just have so much gratitude for everyone who's joined today and everyone who's watching in the future. hugs to you all. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for sharing the stories, because this is how the essences speak to us. We're just so grateful that you're here and sharing your hearts and your stories, and it's so exciting to see what comes up. This has been a really fun conversation. So thank you, everyone. Until next time.